The Pioneer moved slowly toward the massive entropy swarm, while the surviving alien ships watched from a safe distance. On the bridge of his damaged flagship, Fleet Admiral Corvin stared at his screens in disbelief. "What are the humans doing?" he asked his tactical officer. "Are they trying to surrender?" "I don't think so, sir," came the reply. "They're on a direct attack course toward the center of the swarm." Admiral Zektar, speaking from his escape pod, opened a channel to the human ship. "Captain Morrison, what are you doing? Fall back immediately. That swarm will tear you apart in seconds." "Thank you for the concern, Admiral," Morrison replied calmly. "But we have a job to finish." Commander Theiss, floating in the wreckage of her crystalline flagship, watched the small human ship approach the enemy formation. "This is madness," she whispered. "They're going to die for nothing." On the Pioneer, Dr. Hayes was watching streams of data flow across his screens as Lazarus analyzed the entropy swarm. The AI system was learning everything it could about the enemy formation, their weapons, their tactics, and most importantly, their adaptive patterns. "Captain," Hayes reported, "Lazarus has identified the swarm's learning algorithm. They adapt by analyzing incoming attacks and modifying their defenses accordingly. But the system has a weakness." "What kind of weakness?" Morrison asked. "They learn too well," Hayes explained. "The swarm expects every attack to follow logical patterns. They're designed to counter organized, predictable military tactics. But what if we don't use organized tactics?" Morrison smiled. "What if we use chaos instead of order?" "Exactly," Hayes said. "Lazarus is ready to implement Strategy 7. Lieutenant Rodriguez was making final adjustments to the ship's systems in the engine room. To anyone watching, it would look like the Pioneer was falling apart. Steam was pouring from the vents, sparks were flying from control panels, and warning lights were flashing all over the ship. But underneath the apparent chaos, every system was working perfectly. The adaptive matrix was reconfiguring the ship's entire structure in real time. The fusion reactor was preparing to output more power than should have been physically possible. "All systems ready for transformation," Rodriguez reported. "The aliens are about to see what human engineering really looks like." Commander Parker was in the weapons bay, activating equipment that looked like it belonged in a scrapyard. The cargo launchers loaded their first rounds, pieces of metal that appeared to be random junk but had been precisely engineered for maximum effectiveness. "Weapons ready, Captain," Parker announced. "Let's show them how humans fight." The entropy swarm detected the approaching human ship and began to prepare its defenses. Millions of drones turned their weapons toward the Pioneer, ready to destroy it with the same adaptive tactics that had defeated the alien fleet. But instead of firing conventional weapons, the Pioneer began launching what looked like garbage into space. Old metal plates, defunct satellites, and empty cargo containers flew out of the ship's launchers in seemingly random directions. "What are they doing?" Zektar asked in confusion. "Are they throwing trash at the enemy?" The swarm's AI tried to analyze the incoming objects and adapt its defenses accordingly. But there was nothing to adapt to. The metal plates weren't weapons. They were just pieces of metal. The satellites weren't bombs. They were just electronic equipment. The cargo containers weren't missiles. They were just empty boxes. The enemy. Drones fired at the objects, destroying most of them easily. But as they did, something unexpected happened. The metal plates unfolded into kinetic interceptors that rammed into enemy ships at incredible speeds. The satellites activated jamming systems that confused the swarm's sensors. The cargo containers released clouds of tiny machines that began eating the enemy drones from the inside. "Impossible," Theiss breathed. They're using adaptive technology, but it's not like anything we've ever seen. The swarm tried to counter the human attack, but every time it adapted to one threat, another completely different type of attack hit it. The tiny machines that were eating the drones suddenly started replicating, using enemy materials to build more of themselves. The kinetic interceptors changed their approach patterns, striking from angles the swarm couldn't predict. Morrison watched his tactics display as the battle unfolded. "Hayes, how is Lazarus performing?" "Beyond all expectations, Captain," Hayes replied. "The swarm keeps trying to adapt to our attacks, but we're not using consistent tactics. Every attack is completely different from the last one." The Pioneer itself began to transform. Hull sections moved and reconfigured. Hidden weapon systems emerged from compartments that hadn't been visible before. The ship that had looked like a piece of junk now revealed itself as one of the most advanced vessels ever built. "My God," Corvin whispered. "The human ship is changing shape. How is that possible?" Rodriguez's voice came over the comm. "Captain, the adaptive matrix is operating at full capacity. We can reconfigure any system on the ship in real time. The Aitawa transformation was incredible to watch." The Pioneer's weapons emerged from hidden bays, its armor plating shifted to deflect incoming fire, and its engines modified themselves to provide impossible amounts of power. But most importantly, the ship never looked the same twice. Every time the entropy swarm tried to learn how to fight the Pioneer, the ship had already changed into something completely different. It was like trying to fight an opponent who could become a new person every few seconds. Parker's modified weapons systems were devastating the enemy formation. Rock cutters sliced through drone hulls like they were made of paper. Cargo launchers fired projectiles that split into smaller pieces, just before impact multiplying the damage. Even the ship's maintenance robots had been turned into weapons, swarming over enemy drones and dismantling them piece by piece. "The swarm is breaking apart," Hayes reported excitedly. "Their central coordination is failing." The entropy swarm had been designed to learn from every attack and become stronger. But the human tactics were so chaotic and unpredictable that the AI couldn't process them fast enough. The more it tried to adapt, the more confused it became. The tiny replicating machines that Rodriguez had designed were spreading through the enemy formation like a virus. But unlike the swarm's own adaptive technology, these machines were designed to evolve faster than any AI could counter them. They learned from the swarm's attempts to stop them and became even more effective. Within 3 hours, the mighty entropy swarm was completely destroyed. 12 million combat drones reduced to floating debris by a single human ship that everyone had thought was a piece of junk. The Pioneer emerged from the wreckage field, its hull bearing new scars, but its crew victorious. The surviving alien ships approached slowly, their commanders speechless. "This is Admiral Zektar to the human ship," came a shaky transmission. We owe you our lives. How did you do it?" Morrison smiled as he looked out at the debris field. "Admiral, you spent thousands of years perfecting the art of organized warfare, but sometimes the best strategy is to have no strategy at all, Fadi. Galaxy would never underestimate human engineering again." Captain Jake Morrison made his decision quickly. "We accept," he said through the communication link. "If this ship can protect humanity, then we'll take that responsibility." Helen Carter's glowing form smiled for the first time since they had met her. "Then let the awakening begin." The crystals around the away team suddenly blazed with brilliant light. Energy flowed through the walls like liquid fire, and the entire ship began to hum with power. Ryan felt the deck vibrating under his feet as massive systems came online after millions of years of sleep. "What's happening?" Bobby asked, watching his scanner display readings that made no sense. "The Eternal Vigilance is integrating with your vessel," Helen explained. "Your ship will become something new, something far beyond what your current technology could create." Back on the USS Defiance, Lisa Park stared at her engineering displays in amazement. "Captain, our systems are changing. The ship's computer is being upgraded. Our engines are being modified. And I'm seeing new systems coming online that weren't there 5 minutes ago." Jake watched through the bridge windows as his ship began to transform. The hull was growing new sections that seemed to build themselves from nothing. Strange antennas and devices appeared along the sides, and the entire vessel was starting to glow with the same blue light as the ancient ship. "Lisa, are we in any danger?" Jake asked. "I don't think so, sir," Lisa replied, her voice filled with wonder. "The new systems are integrating perfectly with our old ones. It's like they were always meant to be together. Captain, our power output just increased by a factor of 10,000. In the crystal chamber, Helen gestured toward a new opening that had appeared in the wall. "Come, there is much you need to see." Ryan led his team through corridors that were changing even as they walked. The alien architecture was somehow becoming more familiar, more suited to human use. Doors appeared at the right height, gravity adjusted to Earth normal, and the lighting became warmer and more comfortable. "The HFY ship is learning from your presence," Helen explained as they walked. "It is adapting itself to serve humanity as it once served your ancestors." They entered what could only be called the Bridge of the Eternal Vigilance. It was enormous, with control stations arranged in perfect harmony. The central command chair faced a screen that showed the space around both ships. Jake's image appeared on the screen as the communication system activated. "Ryan, what am I looking at?" Jake asked. "Our sensors are showing impossible readings from your location." "Captain, this ship has technology that makes our best equipment look like stone tools," Ryan replied. "Helen, show him what this ship can do." The glowing woman nodded and touched one of the control panels. Instantly, the USS Defiance vanished from its position and reappeared next to the ancient vessel. The journey had taken less than a second and covered several thousand miles. "How did you do that?" Jake demanded, his voice showing both amazement and concern. "Spatial displacement," Helen said calmly. "This ship can move through dimensions that exist beyond your normal space. Distance becomes meaningless when you can step outside the universe and back in wherever you choose." Lisa's voice came through the communication system, filled with excitement. "Captain, our new sensors are picking up energy signatures I've never seen before. We can detect objects light years away with perfect clarity. And, sir, we're picking up something else. Ships approaching from deep space." Helen's expression grew serious. "They come faster than I expected. The hierarchy has detected my activation." "The hierarchy?" Amy asked. "The beings who call themselves gods," Helen replied. "They have ruled this galaxy for millions of years, carefully managing younger species until they are ready for harvest. They consider themselves the rightful masters of all life." On the transformed bridge of the USS Defiance, new displays came online showing the approaching vessels. They were unlike anything in human records, seeming to be made of pure energy rather than solid matter. They moved through space without any visible means of propulsion, bending reality around themselves as they traveled. "How many ships?" Jake asked. 12 vessels of the hierarchy approach," Helen announced. "They are not ships as you understand them. but extensions of their will made manifest in your reality. Lieutenant Kate Murphy, the Defiance's communications officer, looked up from her station with surprise. "Captain, I'm receiving a transmission. It's coming from the lead vessel." "Put it through," Jake ordered. The main screen flickered and showed a being of impossible beauty and terrible power. It appeared to be made of living light, with features that shifted constantly between different forms. When it spoke, its voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. "Young humans," the being said, "I am Sovereign Zephyros of the hierarchy. You have awakened something that should have remained sleeping. Surrender the ancient vessel immediately, and we will grant you a swift ascension to higher existence." Jake stood up from his command chair. "And if we refuse? Then you will learn why countless civilizations have chosen to accept our guidance, rather than face our displeasure," Zephyros replied. "The weapon you have found was created by a species that thought themselves clever. They learned the price of defying the natural order." Helen's image appeared beside Jake on the screen. "Hello, old enemy. I see you have not changed in the millions of years since you murdered my creators." Zephyros's form flickered with what might have been surprise. "The Guardian Protocol still functions? Impossible. We destroyed that abomination completely." "You destroyed the civilization that created me," Helen said calmly. "But I survived, as I was designed to do, and now I have found new guardians to carry on the work." "Humans are barely more advanced than the creatures they evolved from," Zephyros sneered. "They are not worthy to wield such power." Jake stepped forward. "Maybe not, but we're willing to learn." Amy was studying the readings from the ancient ship's sensors. "Helen, what do you mean by ascension? What do they do to species they harvest?" Helen's expression grew dark. "They drain the life force from entire worlds, converting billions of sentient beings into pure energy which they then consume. They call it ascension because they tell their victims it is an honor to become part of something greater." Bobby looked up from his readings. "That's genocide on a galactic scale." "Indeed," Helen replied. "The hierarchy has consumed thousands of civilizations over the millions of years they have ruled. Your species was being prepared for the same fate." On the screen, Zephyros raised what might have been a hand. "Enough talk. Humans, you have one final chance. Surrender the Guardian vessel and accept immediate ascension. Your energy will be put to better use serving the cosmic order." Jake looked around at his crew, then back at the screen. "I think our answer is no." "Then you have chosen extinction," Zephyros said. "Prepare to join your ancient predecessors in oblivion." The transmission ended, and immediately the hierarchy vessels began to glow brighter. Space around them started to twist and bend as they prepared their weapons. "Helen, can this ship fight them?" Jake asked. "The Eternal Vigilance was designed specifically to combat the hierarchy," Helen replied. "But you must understand, this will not be a battle fought with conventional weapons. They will attack reality itself, trying to unravel the very laws of physics that hold your existence together." Lisa's voice came from the engineering station. "Captain, I'm detecting massive energy buildups from the enemy vessels. Whatever they're planning to do, it's going to be big." Ryan and his team had returned to the USS Defiance, which was now permanently joined with the ancient vessel. The two ships had become one, creating something entirely new. The bridge displays showed weapons and defensive systems that seemed to operate on principles beyond human understanding. "All crew, battle stations," Jake announced. We're about to find out if our ancestors built their ultimate weapon well enough to save us. Helen took her place at one of the control stations. Captain Morrison, I am transferring full tactical control to you. The ship will respond to your commands as if you had trained on it your entire life. Jake sat down in the captain's chair, which immediately adjusted itself to his body. Information flowed into his mind, showing him how to operate weapons that could tear holes in space itself and shields that existed in multiple dimensions at once. All stations report ready, Ryan announced. Jake looked at the approaching enemy vessels and felt the awesome power of the ancient ship responding to his will. Then let's show these so-called gods what humanity is capable of. The first shots of the war between humanity and the hierarchy lit up the void between galaxies with energies that had not been seen since the universe was young. The first attack from the hierarchy vessels was unlike anything Jake Morrison had ever imagined. Instead of energy beams or missiles, they fired something that looked like liquid darkness. The black substance spread through space toward the combined human ships, eating light itself as it moved. Shields up, Jake ordered, though he wasn't sure what good conventional shields would do against whatever was coming at them. Helen's hands moved across the ancient control panels. These are not shields as you know them, Captain. The eternal vigilance protects itself by existing in multiple realities at once. The darkness hit their position and passed right through them harmlessly. Jake felt a strange sensation, as if part of him had stepped sideways out of normal space for just a moment. Direct hit, no damage, Lisa reported from engineering. Captain, I don't understand how, but we're not entirely in this dimension anymore. Helen nodded. The ship shifted us partially into parallel space. The hierarchy's weapon cannot affect what it cannot fully perceive. Sovereign Zephyros appeared on their communication screen again, his energy form flickering with what looked like surprise. Impossible. That weapon has destroyed entire star systems. Your weapons were designed to fight conventional matter, Helen replied calmly. My creators learned to fight on your level. Jake felt the ship's weapon systems connecting to his thoughts. He could sense massive energy cannons that fired concentrated reality itself, missiles that could chase targets through time, and devices that could turn an enemy's own power against them. Return fire, Jake commanded. The eternal vigilance fired. A beam of pure white light that struck the lead hierarchy vessel. Instead of exploding, the enemy ship began to flicker and fade, as if it was forgetting how to exist. What did we just do to them? Bobby asked from his sensor station. Probability cascade failure, Helen explained. The weapon makes their ship's existence increasingly unlikely until reality decides they were never there at all. The other hierarchy vessels immediately changed their formation, spreading out to avoid the same fate. They began firing different weapons, beams of energy that twisted space itself into impossible shapes. Multiple attacks incoming, Ryan warned. They're targeting different dimensional layers. Jake guided the ship through evasive maneuvers that took them through spaces that normal physics said couldn't exist. They moved up, down, sideways, and through directions that had no names, dodging attacks that followed them across multiple realities. The battle continued for several minutes before Kate Murphy called out from her communication station. Captain, I'm detecting massive energy signatures throughout the galaxy. More hierarchy vessels are appearing everywhere. The main screen changed to show a galactic map covered in red dots. Hundreds of hierarchy ships were materializing near every major human colony and allied world. They're not just attacking us, Amy realized. They're attacking everyone who might help us. Helen's expression grew grim. The hierarchy has decided that this threat must be eliminated completely. They are beginning a full harvest cycle, something they have not done for millions of years. Jake watched as reports came in from across human space. The hierarchy vessels were appearing over Earth, Mars, the outer colonies, and even near the home worlds of humanity's alien allies. Each ship was broadcasting the same message: surrender immediately or face extinction. "Admiral Blake is on emergency communication from Earth," Kate announced. The screen showed Admiral Susan Blake, head of Earth's Space Defense Force, sitting in what looked like a military bunker. "Captain Morrison, what have you gotten us into? There are 12 of those energy ships in Earth orbit, and they're demanding we surrender something called the Guardian Protocol." "Admiral, we've discovered an ancient human weapons system," Jake replied. "The enemy you're seeing calls themselves the Hierarchy. They've been secretly controlling galactic civilization for millions of years." "That's impossible," Admiral Blake said. "We've had contact with dozens of alien species. None of them mentioned any galactic rulers." Helen stepped into view of the communication system. "Because every species that discovered the truth was harvested before they could warn others. The hierarchy allows young civilizations to develop only until they become useful food sources." On the screen, Admiral Blake's face went pale. "Food sources? They consume the life energy of entire worlds," Helen explained. "Every species that achieved spaceflight and then mysteriously vanished from galactic records was actually murdered by the hierarchy. Billions of civilizations, trillions of sentient beings, all converted into energy to feed these parasites." The Admiral was quiet for a long moment. "What do you need from us?" "Time," Jake replied. "And trust. This ship has weapons that can fight them, but we need to learn how to use them properly." Amy was studying the sensor readings from across the galaxy. "Helen, are there any other Guardian ships? Did your creators build more than one?" "The eternal vigilance is unique," Helen replied. "My creators poured everything they had into creating one perfect weapon rather than many lesser ones. However, the ship can create additional Guardian vessels if given sufficient resources and time." Bobby looked up from his station with excitement. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange. Several of the hierarchy ships near alien homeworlds are reporting problems. Their targets aren't just surrendering." The main screen changed to show a battle taking place near the Kethran Republic's capital world. The normally peaceful Kethrans had somehow armed their ships with weapons that could actually damage hierarchy vessels. "How are they doing that?" Ryan asked. Helen smiled. "It appears that not all of the ancient knowledge was lost. Some species retained fragments of Guardian technology without understanding what they possessed." Kate's communication board lit up with incoming messages. "Captain, we're receiving transmissions from the Valdari Confederation, the Kethran Republic, and 6 other species. They're asking for our help." Jake made a quick decision. "Helen, can this ship split itself? Can we help multiple locations at once?" "The Eternal Vigilance can create projection vessels," Helen replied. "Smaller ships that carry a portion of my consciousness and Guardian technology. They would not be as powerful as the main vessel, but they could provide significant assistance," Lisa called from engineering. "Captain, I'm detecting something else. The hierarchy ships are changing their tactics. They're not just demanding surrender anymore. They're beginning to drain energy from inhabited worlds without permission." The main screen showed horrifying images from multiple planets. Cities were going dark as their power sources were drained. People were collapsing as their life energy was pulled away. Entire continents were falling into darkness as the hierarchy began their harvest. They're not waiting for surrender. Amy realized. They're taking what they want by force. Helen's form blazed brighter with anger. They have decided that secrecy is no longer necessary. After millions of years of hiding, they are revealing their true nature. Jake felt the ship's weapon systems responding to his growing fury. Then let's show them what happens when they threaten innocent people. The eternal vigilance began to glow with power that made the local star look dim. Energy cascaded through the ship's systems as ancient weapons came online that had not been used since the dawn of galactic civilization. All stations prepare for maximum combat operations, Jake announced. Helen, begin creating those projection vessels. We're going to save as many worlds as we can. Captain, Helen said, once we begin this war in earnest, there will be no turning back. The hierarchy will commit everything they have to destroying us. Jake looked at the images of suffering on the main screen, then at his crew. Each of them nodded their agreement without hesitation. Then we better make sure we win, Jake said. Begin deployment of Guardian vessels. Target every hierarchy ship. That's attacking civilians. The ancient human warship began to split apart, creating dozens of smaller vessels that carried Helen's consciousness and Guardian weapons to threatened worlds across the galaxy. Each one moved faster than light itself, disappearing from normal space and reappearing wherever innocent lives were in danger. The real war between humanity and the gods had begun, and this time, the gods were not fighting helpless primitives. They were fighting the inheritors of the most advanced civilization the galaxy had ever known. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Defiance, staring at the massive screen in front of him. 3 months into their deep space mission, they had found something impossible. Floating in the dark void between galaxies was a ship, unlike anything he had ever seen. Lisa, what are your sensors telling us? Jake asked his chief engineer. Lisa Park looked up from her control panel, her face showing confusion. Captain, this doesn't make sense. The ship is there, we can see it clearly. But our scanners are picking up nothing. It's like the hull is eating our scanning beams. The mysterious vessel was enormous, easily 3 times the size of their exploration ship. Its surface was smooth and black, with strange patterns that seemed to shift when nobody was looking directly at them. The ship had no visible engines, no weapons, and no signs of life. How long has it been drifting out here? Jake wondered aloud. Ryan Hayes, his first officer, walked over to stand beside him. Sir, the computer estimates it could have been here for thousands of years, maybe longer. There's no star system for light years in any direction. Whatever brought, this ship here came from very far away. Jake made his decision. Ryan, put together an away team. I want to know what we're dealing with. 20 minutes later, Ryan suited up with 3 other crew members. Dr. Amy Chen, their expert on alien cultures, checked her equipment one more time. Lieutenant Bobby Torres, their best tech specialist, carried a bag full of scanning tools. The 4th member was Sergeant Carl Stone, their security chief. Remember, we don't know anything about this ship, Ryan told his team as they climbed into the shuttle. Stay alert, and don't touch anything unless I give the order. The shuttle crossed the short distance to the alien vessel. As they got closer, they could see that the ship's surface was covered in thin lines that glowed with a soft blue light. The lines formed complex patterns that hurt to look at for too long. There, Amy pointed to what looked like an opening in the hull. That might be an airlock. The shuttle docked with a soft bump. Bobby ran his scanner over the hull and shook his head. Still nothing. It's like this metal doesn't exist in our reality. They found the airlock easily enough. It opened without any effort, as if the ship was welcoming them inside. The air that rushed out was clean and breathable, which surprised everyone. The ship has atmosphere, Ryan reported back to Captain Morrison. We're going in. The corridors inside the ship were wide and tall, clearly built for beings much larger than humans. The walls were covered in the same glowing patterns they had seen outside, but here the lines pulsed like a heartbeat. The blue light was warm and somehow comforting. "This is incredible," Amy whispered as they walked deeper into the ship. "The architecture is completely alien, but there's something familiar about it. It's like looking at a building from a half-remembered dream." Bobby held up his scanner and frowned. "Guys, my equipment is going crazy. It's picking up energy readings that shouldn't be possible. According to this, the walls are alive." They walked for 10 minutes before reaching what had to be the ship's heart. The corridor opened into a vast chamber filled with floating crystals. Each crystal was the size of a person and glowed with the same blue light as the wall patterns. Energy flowed between them in streams of pure light. "It's beautiful," Amy breathed. As soon as she spoke, the crystals began to glow brighter. The streams of energy started moving faster, and a low humming sound filled the air. "I think it heard you," Bobby said nervously. The humming grew louder, and suddenly the air in front of them began to shimmer. Light gathered and twisted until it formed the shape of a woman. She was tall and graceful, with long hair that seemed to be made of starlight. Her eyes were ancient and sad. "Welcome, children of Earth," the woman said in perfect English. "I have been waiting for you for so very long." Ryan raised his weapon, but the woman held up her hand. "There is no need for fear. I am not your enemy. I am what you might call the ship's soul." "Who are you?" Amy asked, stepping forward despite Ryan's warning look. "I am the consciousness of this vessel. You may call me Helen Carter, though that is not my true name. I chose it because it sounds comfortable to your ears." The woman smiled sadly. "I am the last guardian of humanity's greatest creation." "Humanity's creation?" Ryan lowered his weapon but kept it ready. "This ship is human?" "Not your humanity," Helen replied. "The humanity that came before. The civilization that built this ship existed millions of years ago, long before your species evolved to its current form." Bobby's scanner was beeping frantically. "Commander, the energy readings are off the charts. This thing is putting out more power than our entire ship uses in a year." Helen turned to look at him. "You are correct, young one. This vessel contains technologies that your current science would consider impossible. We called it the Eternal Vigilance, and it was built for one purpose alone." "What purpose?" Amy asked. "To protect humanity when all other protections fail," Helen said. "To be the guardian that awakens only when the species faces complete destruction." Jake's voice crackled through their communication devices. "Away team, report. We're detecting massive energy spikes from that ship." Ryan keyed his radio. "Captain, you need to hear this. The ship is awake and it's human." "Impossible," Jake replied. Helen waved her hand, and suddenly Jake's voice was clear and strong, as if he was standing right next to them. "Nothing is impossible, Captain Morrison. Your ship's communication systems are now connected to mine. We have much to discuss." "How do you know my name?" Jake demanded. "I know many things," Helen replied. "I have been watching your species' development for thousands of years, waiting for the right moment to reveal myself. That moment has come." Amy stepped closer to the glowing woman. "Why now? What's changed?" Helen's expression grew dark. "Because the ancient enemy has awakened. The ones who destroyed my creators are stirring once again. They have felt my activation, and they will come. Who is this enemy? Ryan asked. Beings who call themselves gods, Helen said. They have ruled the galaxy from the shadows for millions of years, feeding on the life force of entire civilizations. They allowed your species to develop only because they planned to harvest you when you reached the proper stage of evolution. The crystals around them pulsed brighter and images began forming in the air. They showed magnificent cities, advanced starships, and beings of incredible power. Then the images changed to show those same worlds empty and dead, drained of all life. This is what they do, Helen continued. They guide species to technological maturity, then consume them completely. They have done this to thousands of worlds, billions of sentient beings. And this ship can stop them? Bobby asked. This ship was designed specifically to fight them, Helen replied. My creators learned the truth about these so-called gods. They spent their final years building the ultimate weapon, one that could break the ancient cycle of harvest and consumption. Jake's voice came through clearly. If this ship is so powerful, why didn't your creators use it to save themselves? Helen's image flickered with what looked like pain. They did use it, Captain. But the cost was everything. They poured their knowledge, their technology, and their very souls into creating me. They died so that future humanity might live free. The chamber fell silent except for the gentle humming of the crystals. Finally, Amy spoke. What do you need from us? I need you to accept your inheritance, Helen said. I need you to take command of the most advanced warship ever built. I need you to become the guardians that your ancestors died to create. Ryan looked around at his team, then back at the glowing woman. And if we refuse? Helen's smile was infinitely sad. Then your species will join the billions who came before. The harvest will begin, and everything you love will be consumed. The choice is yours, children of Earth. Will you claim your birthright, or will you let the ancient cycle continue? The crystals pulsed brighter, waiting for their answer. The demonstration was going exactly as planned until the emergency alarm started screaming across every ship in the fleet. Captain Morrison looked up from his targeting computer as urgent messages flooded the communication channels. Admiral, Zektar's voice cut through the chaos, speaking to all ships at once. All vessels, cease demonstration activities immediately, Zektar commanded. We have received a priority alert from Outer Rim Command. The entropy swarm has broken containment. Morrison felt his blood turn cold. Every human in the fleet had been briefed on the entropy swarm during their journey to Nexus Prime. It was an artificial intelligence that had been created by a long-dead civilization as the ultimate weapon. The AI had one simple goal: consume and destroy everything in its path while learning from every attack used against it. What is the entropy swarm's current location? Commander Theiss asked over the comm. 3 star systems in the Outer Rim have gone dark in the past 6 hours, Zektar replied. Long-range sensors show a massive swarm of ships moving toward the core worlds. Current projections put them at the Centauri system in 18 hours. The mood on every ship changed instantly. The demonstration had been a show of strength and pride. This was now a matter of survival for every civilization in the galaxy. Dr. Hayes pulled up everything he could find about the entropy swarm on his computer. The reports made for grim reading. Every previous encounter with similar adaptive AI had ended in total defeat. The swarm learned from every weapon used against it, becoming stronger and more resistant with each attack. Captain, Hayes said quietly, The historical data shows that conventional weapons are completely useless against this enemy. The more firepower you throw at it, the better it gets at defending against that exact type of firepower. Morrison nodded grimly. I know, Peter. That's exactly why we're here. On the bridge of the Annihilator's Wrath, Admiral Zektar was meeting with the other fleet commanders via hologram. The great alien leaders who had been joking and laughing just minutes before now looked worried and afraid. The situation is worse than we first thought, Fleet Admiral Corvin announced from Coalition headquarters. The entropy swarm appears to have grown significantly since it broke containment. Our estimates suggest it now contains over 10 million. Combat units. 10 million? Gasped Ambassador Veltar. How is that possible? It's been consuming everything in its path and converting the material into new combat drones, Corvin explained. Ships, stations, even planets are being stripped down and turned into weapons. Commander Theiss studied the tactical data on her screen. Our combined fleets have maybe 2,000 ships total. We're outnumbered 5,000 to 1. Numbers aren't everything, Zektar said, though his voice lacked its usual confidence. Our ships are more advanced than anything the swarm has faced before. Are they? Corvin asked. The reports from the Outer Rim suggest that the swarm adapted to and defeated the Hegemony Defense Force in under 4 hours. Those were some of our most advanced ships. The silence that followed was uncomfortable. Everyone knew that the Hegemony Defense Force had been equipped with the latest weapons and shields. If the swarm could defeat them so quickly, what hope did the rest of the fleet have? We need every ship we can get, Corvin continued. I'm ordering all available vessels to rendezvous at the Centauri system for a final stand. This includes the human ship. Zektar looked uncomfortable. Admiral, with respect, the human vessel is hardly equipped for this type of combat. Perhaps they should remain here where it's safe. No, Corvin said firmly. We need every ship, no matter how small. Besides, the humans requested to be part of this fleet. If they want to fight, we'll let them fight. Morrison opened a channel to Fleet Command. Admiral Corvin, this is Captain Morrison of the Pioneer. We volunteer to join the defensive fleet. Thank you, Captain, Corvin replied. I'll be honest with you. The odds are not good. This enemy has defeated everything we've thrown at it so far. We understand the risks, sir, Morrison said. But we didn't come all this way just to turn around and run when things got difficult. Zektar shook his massive head. Human, you don't understand what you're volunteering for. This isn't a training exercise or a demonstration. The entropy swarm will destroy your ship in seconds. Maybe, Morrison agreed, but maybe not. We humans have some experience fighting enemies that adapt and evolve. We call it survival of the fittest. This is madness, Theiss said. Your ship couldn't survive 5 minutes against a single hegemony cruiser, let alone 10 million combat drones. Morrison smiled slightly. Commander, you might be surprised what humans can do when they're backed into a corner. Rodriguez was down in the engine room, making final preparations for combat. The adaptive matrix was running perfectly, ready to change the ship's entire power configuration in response to enemy attacks. The fusion reactor that looked like it might explode at any moment was actually capable of output levels that would make the alien engineers weep with envy. Amy, how long until we can jump to Centauri? Morrison asked over the comm. Give me 10 more minutes to finish the pre-flight checks, Rodriguez replied. But Captain, are you sure about this? The aliens might be right. We've never faced anything like the entropy swarm before. No, we haven't, Morrison agreed. But that works both ways. The swarm has never faced anything like us either. Parker was in the weapons bay, activating systems that had never been used in actual combat. The rock cutters hummed to life, their cutting beams calibrated for maximum effectiveness against metallic targets. The cargo launchers loaded their first rounds, projectiles that looked like random pieces of scrap metal, but had been engineered to specific tolerances. "Weapons are ready, Captain," Parker reported. "Though I still think we should tell the aliens what we're really capable of. It might help with fleet coordination." "Not yet, Lisa," Morrison said. "The element of surprise is the only advantage we have. Once the aliens know what we can do, word will spread. Better to keep our secrets until we really need them." Hayes was running final diagnostics on Lazarus. The AI system was already analyzing all available data about the entropy swarm, looking for patterns and weaknesses that might not be obvious to organic minds. The computer that looked like a pile of junk was processing information at speeds that would make the most advanced alien supercomputers seem slow. "Lazarus is ready, Captain," Hayes reported. "The system has identified several potential strategies for dealing with adaptive enemies. Some of them are unconventional." "Unconventional is what we do best," Morrison replied. "Are you ready to show the galaxy what human engineering is really capable of?" "Yes, sir," Hayes said. "Let's give them something to remember." The fleet began jumping to hyperspace, heading for what might be the last battle any of them would ever fight. The alien ships departed first, their massive engines creating brilliant flashes of light as they disappeared into the void. The Pioneer jumped last, its small form vanishing into hyperspace with barely a flicker. To the aliens, it looked like a lamb heading to slaughter. They had no idea that they were about to witness the most important battle in galactic history.